Hey folks, this is another video in a series that aspires to teach Google Apps Script's spreadsheet app to beginners. In previous lessons, we've explored how to access workbooks, how to create them from scratch, how to make copies, how to access individual sheets in workbooks, how to extract data from those sheets, how to dynamically call ranges, how to read, write, and append to sheets. And we've also learned how to stylize sheets by removing blank rows and blank columns. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu and creating a new script file. So we are going to be learning how to add style elements to a sheet. So we are going to call this J underscore style underscore elements. Hit enter. And we will change the name of this function to style elements. And we will save our project. So we're going to begin by going to our spreadsheet. So we learned how to dynamically remove blank rows and blank columns. So I'm going to show you the way that I like to format data. So I like to have one blank column to the left and right of my data tables, and then I like to have one row above and below. And then I resize both the columns. So I am on a Mac. So I held down Command and I selected column A and column D. If you're on a Windows machine, I don't know how to do it, but I would presume you hold down Control and then you select the columns that you want to. Then you can right click and resize the columns, and I typically will resize them to be 25. So now I have just kind of like a nice tight environment where I can stylize a table. And recently, I've started to style my sheets using AppScript. So I might like create a template view of data, but sometimes the requirements change. So I've started to use AppScript in order to reformat by inserting extra columns, inserting extra rows, and changing style elements so that I can change borders and lines and headers and all that type of stuff. So we're going to be exploring ways to create a border around this data. We're going to learn how to remove the grid lines, and we're going to learn how to add different types of style lines throughout. So we're going to go back to our script, and we're going to go to line 2. We're going to hit enter once. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And the first thing that we're going to do is access the workbook we want to style. So we're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable of WB. We're going to set it equal to spreadsheet app. We're going to use a dot method. You have 3 options, and it is dependent upon your circumstances. If you are using a bound app script, meaning that it was created from the spreadsheet, that resulted in the script file that you're working in, then you can use .get active spreadsheet, and you'll have an open parentheses, and you will not pass any arguments into it. Hit the right arrow, and you can add a semicolon. If you are looking to style a spreadsheet that is not your app script project is not bound to, meaning like you created this script project either in Drive or from another file type, and you're looking to access another workbook, you'll need to open it by the ID or open it by the URL. So you can use spreadsheet app.open by ID, spreadsheet app.open by URL. Cool. So we're going to hit enter twice, left arrow twice, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will access the sheet we want to style. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare a variable of sheet, and we're going to set it equal to wb.getSheetByName. We'll have an open parentheses. It requires a single argument that needs to be formatted as a string. So you'll add single quotes or double quotes. Doesn't matter. Just remain consistent with whatever you've been using to this point. We're going to go back to our sheet and we're going to identify the name. You can either double click on it and copy it, or you can go back and type it in. I'm going to copy and paste it. My sheet is called sheet 2, so that's what I'm putting in there. And hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to hit the left arrow once, and I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, where I will define the data range. So I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to create a variable called data, capital R, range, and I'm going to set that equal to sheet.get, capital R, range, open parentheses. Get range takes 4 arguments. 2 are mandatory, 2 are optional. We are going to use all 4 arguments. The first argument is the row, the starting row that you want to access. So in my sheet, I have a blank row number 1, which means that I want to start at row 2. So I'm going to go back to my app script, and I'm going to put in 2, comma, space. The next argument is the starting column. So the same thing is happening here, where I have a blank first column. Therefore, I want to start at column 2. So I'm going to go back to my app script, and I'm going to enter in 2. So what's happening here is we are defining the second row and the second column, which when we are in our spreadsheet is cell B2. The next argument is defining the number of rows that you want to go. So we are going to dynamically do this so that if it changes, like if it expands or it contracts, then our script will be able to adapt to it. So we are going to add a comma, and we will reference the sheet variable, and then we will use the .get, capital L, last row function, and we'll have an open parentheses there. It takes no arguments. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a comma. We're going to hit space, and then we're going to do the same thing for our columns. So this last argument defines the number of columns you want to go. So we're going to do the same thing where you reference our sheet variable, and then we do get last column. Open parentheses, no argument there. Hit the right arrow once, right arrow twice. Now, this is not going to work the way that we want it to, because sheet.get last row and sheet.get last column will define the last data row with an input value, which is also known as the last non-null row or the last non-null column. So the result will be 10 and 3. Now, the problem with that is that we are starting at row 2, column 2. So the get range method will go 1, 2, 3 for the columns, and it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for the rows. So then if we do not modify get last row and get last column, then we're going to end up with this data range here, which would give us a null row and a null column, which we don't want. So we are going to click to the right of sheet.get last row. We're going to hit space. We are going to subtract 1 from sheet.get last row, and we are going to do the same for the column. That way, when we return the last row number, we are compensating for the null row in row 1. So we are subtracting 1 because we don't want that null, and we are compensating for the null column of number 2, and therefore getting a transformed number to accurately reference our data range. Cool. So now that we have our data range, we can start doing stuff. So we're going to hit enter twice, hit the left arrow once, add 2 slashes for a comment, and hit space. We are going to add a border around our data. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we can call data range dot, and let's see, we can set border, and we can open up our parentheses. And set border has several arguments. The first argument is the top. The next argument is left. The next argument is bottom. The next argument is right. The following argument is vertical. And the final argument is horizontal. So I'm going to explain what that means in here. So basically, when you are inputting arguments into set border, you are beginning like so, where you are referencing the top, right? So that's when you put a line up top here, that is the first value. The second value is determining if a line goes to the left. The third value is looking at the bottom. The fourth value, as you can see here, is going to look at the right. Now, when it's talking about horizontal, it's talking about whether or not lines, if you were like going across multiple ranges, if those lines go that way. And then vertical is talking about if you have a range like this, if you're going to have a line down the center of all of these things, or if it's just going to be top, left, bottom, right. So you have to put in all of these arguments. In getRange, in the .getRange method, you have optional arguments. So you can enter start row, start column, and the method will work even if you don't put in the number of rows you want to go or the number of columns you want to go. But with set border, you either have to put in true, meaning there is a line, false, meaning there isn't a line, or null, which just means that nothing happens. So we are going to set a border, a square border around our data. So we are going to enter true for top, and then we'll enter true for left, and we will enter true for bottom, and we will enter true for right. And then we will put false for vertical and false for horizontal. And we'll go to the right. And let me see if there's another, oh, we also have coloring that we can add in here. So we will add a single quote, and we will do black, and then we will do a comma, and we can reference spreadsheet app again, dot, border style, dot, and then we can do solid medium. We'll just see what that looks like. Cool. So we will hit save, and we will hit run. And when we go back to our sheet, you can see that we now have a bold border around our data range. So you may be asking yourself, why do we have to put in false, and why would you put in null? Well, if we change, so we want our top, we want our left, let's say we don't want a bottom, so we'll enter in false. And let's say for conversation's sake, we don't want right, but we enter in null, and we hit run. Then the result is that we no longer have this bottom line down here because we set it to false. So we were distinctly stating, do not have a bottom line. Whereas when we put null, null is basically saying don't change anything. So if a line already exists, it will continue to exist. Whereas if we change that null to be false and we rerun our script, the right line is going to go away because we have now distinctly stated do not have a line there. So the set border method provides you with three options in a Boolean fashion. Boolean means it's either true or false. In this case, you also have the ability to enter null, which means no change. So true means that there's going to be a line there, false means there's no line there, and null means that there is no change to the line that is presently there. So we're going to go back and we are going to add true for our bottom line. So we're going to have true as our top, which is 1, true for left, which is 2, true for 3, which is bottom, and true for right, which is 4. And then we're going to have false because we don't want center lines, and false because we don't want vertical lines. You can see here that you can just write in whatever number you want to, or whatever color you want to, I'm sorry. Let's see what happens if I put in red. Cool, so now you see we have a red bold border there. And then using the style elements, this was a little bit difficult for me. I'm going to change red back to black. This was a little bit difficult for me as I was learning how to style things in AppScript. It's not intuitive that you would have to call spreadsheet app.borderstyle.solidmedium, but when you use spreadsheet app.borderstyle, you see that you can have dashed lines, dotted lines, double lines, solid medium, solid thick, right? So we did solid medium. And now we are going to hit enter twice, hit the left arrow once, add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to add lines in between our rows. So we are going to, you know what, I want to have, okay, you know how I'll do this? I want to have dotted lines in between these rows here. And then I want to have a box around my header up here, and I want these to be bold. So what I'm going to try doing is I'm going to try using our data range to set the dotted lines, and then I'm going to set a header range so that then I can add style elements to the header. So I'm going to hit enter here. I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to try data range dot set border. And we are not going to have a top line. So we'll say that's null because we want it to remain true. We are going to say null because we don't want the left line to change. We're going to say null because we don't want the bottom line to change. And we're going to say null because we don't want the right line to change. We don't want a vertical line, so we're going to write in false. But we do want a horizontal line, so we're going to enter in true. We're going to add a comma, which is where we have the ability to enter in our color. And I didn't note this, but you can enter in a hex code, or you can just enter in a color name. So if you want to work with hex codes, I apologize that I'm going to jump around here. You can stay in your AppScript file. I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet to just show you where the hex codes are available. So you can either click on the text color or the fill color or any place where you have access to colors. And then you can click on this plus symbol here for custom color. And then this is where you can find the hex code. So this gives you the ability to have more dynamic colors, right? Where it's like, I'm not an artist. I just play one on the internet and I don't know like what the name is for some of these shades of red or black or what have you. But if you did want like a unique color like this, you could copy the hex code with the hash symbol like this, and you can paste it in here. But I'm just going to go with simple single quotes black. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, and now I'm going to do spreadsheet app dot border style dot, and then I'm going to use a dotted line. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a semicolon. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit run. Now, what I want to have happen is I want dotted lines to exist within my data range. So it's a little bit difficult to see now because we have grid lines in here. So what I'm going to do is teach you how to remove grid lines. So we're going to go back to our script. I'm going to hit X. I'm going to go to the right of the add lines in between our rows. I'm going to hit enter twice, left arrow once, 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to remove the grid lines. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to reference sheet dot, and then I'm going to type in set hidden grid lines, and this is just a Boolean. So you can either say true if you want it hidden, or false if you don't, or you can just like not type it. So we're going to do true, hit the right arrow, add a semicolon, hit save, hit run. And now when we go back to our sheet, you can see that we no longer have grid lines, and these dotted lines that I've added are more prominent. So now we have the beginnings of a very nice looking text box here. So another thing that we could do is center these values, right? So I'm going to hit enter twice, left arrow once, 2 slashes for a comment, and I will be center the data values. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to reference sheet dot, and I'm going to type in alignment, which I don't seem to have. So you know what? I'll do data range dot, and then I'll type alignment. And there we go. We got horizontal alignment. So, oh, sorry, we'll do set horizontal alignment, open up parentheses, and then you have the ability of just entering in left, center, or normal. So I'm going to add a single quote, and I'm going to type center. I'm going to hit the right arrow twice. I'm going to add a semicolon, and I'm going to hit run. And now you can see that all of my data values have been centered. So what I would like to do now is work on this header row here, because I want that to stand out more. So I'm going to go back to my app, and I am going to click on line 22, and I'm going to hit enter twice, left arrow once, 2 slashes for a comment, and I am going to define the header range. So I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to declare a variable called header capital R range. I'm going to set that equal to sheet.get capital R range, open parentheses, and I want to start at row 2, comma, column 2, comma, and I only want to go one row, comma, but then I want to have a dynamic sheet.get capital L last column, open parentheses, hit the right arrow, hit space, minus space 1, because we have to renormalize for starting one column over. The reason I'm only going one row is because I know I have one header row. I'm not going to have a multi-index header. I just want to have one row that has some names so that people know what the type or category or whatever is. But for my columns, those could expand over time. So I want my getRange method to be dynamic so that it can expand and contract. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice, left arrow once, 2 slashes for a comment. And now we will add a border to the header row. We're going to hit enter, tab, and we're going to do header range dot set border, open parentheses. We want a top, we want a bottom, or a left, we want a bottom, and we want a right. And then we can do null, comma, null, because we don't care about the vertical or the horizontal. Or rather, we don't want them. So I'm actually going to set them to false. I mean, you can keep it null if you want to, but I'm just being overly cautious to make sure that they remain empty. And then after the final false, we're going to do comma, single quote, black, right arrow on your keyboard, comma, space, spreadsheet app dot capital B, border style dot solid medium, and hit the right arrow, and I am going to add a semicolon. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave the semicolon off for now because we're going to try and go back to it. So we're going to hit save, and we are going to hit run. Cool. So now when we go back there, you can see that we now have a box that makes our header row more distinct than the rest of our data. So what we're also going to do is we're going to add a background color so that this stands out a little bit more. So we are going to go up into our color wheel here, and we are going to find something, I don't know, doesn't matter. You can pick anything you want to. This is a fun chance to play with hex codes if you want to, or you can just enter in black. It's really whatever you want to do. So you know what? I'll do black just to keep it nice and simple, because that's just hash 3030 zeros. Okay, so we're going to resume on line 28, and what we're going to do is we're going to go between header range and set border, and we're going to hit enter. That way it's nested under. I've started to get into the habit of doing this so that I can kind of see like what things are building up into one another. So after set border, so we're going to go to the right on line 29, we're going to do dot, and we are going to get background. And we're going to open up a parentheses, and now we're going to pass in a string that gives us a hex code, or that gives the program a hex code. So we're going to add single quotes, and for black, you can do hash 6 zeros. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back in there, and I'm going to do hash 123 123 for 6. I'm going to click on in between the end of set border and the beginning of dot get background. I'm going to hit enter. Now, if we have a black background and we have black text, then we're not going to be able to see it. So what we're going to do now is hit dot, and we are going to, oh, I'm so sorry. Actually, we did dot get background. We want to do dot set background. So my apologies for that. You want to have set, because we are setting things here. So we're doing set border, set background, and now we are going to set font color. And we'll do open parentheses, single quote, and I'm just going to type in white, but you can also enter in, I believe, 6 Fs is the same thing as white. And that's what this documentation is saying here. So you can use either or. And then we're going to go to the right, and we're going to do dot set font font weight, and we can you can either like, oh, we can enter in bold or normal. So I'm going to enter in single quotes bold. I'm going to hit the right arrow, and I'm going to add semicolon. I'm going to just kind of format my lines so that I have them all stacked. So I am setting my border so that I have that header box, and it's going to be black with solid medium. And I'm going to set the background color to black. I'm going to set the font color to white, and I'm going to set the font weight to bold. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit run, and we're going to go back in there. And now you can see we have a fully stylized data table that is pretty much presentation ready. And this is typically what I would return as a deliverable for my 9 to 5. So this is, I think, a great way to distribute data so it's more aesthetic. And you can just take a screenshot of it, paste it into Slack or email or all that type of stuff. Just so that you're aware of it, I'm also going to show you just how to change the font size and the font, like the font itself. So I'm going to pick like a very funny, so we'll try and do lobster, right? That way we have this like very funny looking font. Because why not make it stand out? So we'll get rid of our semicolon here. We'll do dot set capital F font family, and we'll open up, and you can see you can just pass in a string. So we'll do single quotes, and let's try doing impact, or you know what, we'll do lobster. That way we'll see. And then we are going to go to the right, and we will do dot set font size, and we will change it from 10 to 11, and we will stack our style elements. We'll add a semicolon at the end, we'll hit enter, and we will run our code. No errors. We go back to our spreadsheet, and now you can see that we have a much larger uh, font, 11, as opposed to 10, where we have like our default fonts in here. And we have size 11 font, which you can see up here, as opposed to that. So there's a lot of really cool style elements that you can add into your spreadsheets, so that if you do ever come up with a situation where you have a project out in the wild and people want to change it, you can create what I like to call code patches by using AppScript. And I very recently had a project like that where the scope expanded, and instead of having to create new workbooks, I just scripted the code patch, and then I pushed it out to all the workbooks by looping through the IDs and coming up with a really cool portfolio project. Um, so I hope you found this helpful. I think this is a video series that I can add to over time. So if you do have questions, comments, or things that you'd like to see, I'm happy to add to it. Check out my video or check out my channel. I have all of these videos broken out, as well as the entire lesson as one video. So I have a fundamental series that breaks down some of these concepts. And I wish you the best of luck on your data journey.